Thanks a lot for the introduction. Okay, so hello, I'm Chakma. I'm from CDPC, which is in Bangladesh. First of all, I'm really honored to be here in here so many talented youth and individuals. So today I'll represent the findings of a report addressing the Bangladeshi government's role in educating the Chakma Indigenous Community about their language. I believe with the representation, I somehow bear the responsibility of showcasing the lack of support my community gets time to time from the government. And I also would like to thank my teammates for helping me in this. Okay, so I'll start. The research question was, how impactful has the Bangladesh government's My research question was, how impactful has the Bangladesh government initiative been in form of educating the Chakma community about their language and reviving from the language loss? The indigenous community of Bangladesh had a rough start with their rights since the past, and to this date, they lack importance. In terms of having actions toward the social issues, one of them being the language loss. It might be a surprising fact, Bangladesh, which got independence in 1971, nearly took 4 decades to address this language loss. The 2010 education policy clearly states that the indigenous children should be provided with indigenous teachers and textbooks so they can learn from their own language, and also stated that the government will start working on this project in 2014. But in 2014, what happened was the government again delayed the timeline to 2015, and finally in 2017, the government started taking the action. The Bangladesh government started to distribute the pre-preliminary textbooks on 5 indigenous languages, one of them being the Chakma language. So I focused on finding out the impact of this initiative, and I approached some of the very renowned NGOs working on this teaching Chakma language, and managed to somehow get their opinions regarding the impact of this initiative through doing a survey with 10 Chakma language teachers. The findings were quite clear, and it has showed that the impact wasn't that much significant from the government, and insufficient teachers, fundings, resources, and lack of training, etc., are the main reasons for not being able to use the textbooks among them. The research also connects itself with this quote that bilingualism means having some equal or some support over the grammar and structure of the second language, which there reflects this this bilingualism can be a prerequisite of language loss, which reflects the issues of indigenous communities of Bangladesh today. Because most of the communities here have to talk in their second language because their first language doesn't have that much economic value as it should be. And the methodology of this research is primarily quantitative experiment. For data collection, we use survey methods like 5-point Likert chart scenario statements provided related to linguistic communication issues that are spoken in the Bangladesh besides the official language. The responses in the survey made me realize that the problem actually exists in its very depth, and in numbers out of 12 questions, 8 questions were strongly agreed, and the rest were strongly disagreed. At the same time, assisting in reviving the language loss in the communications. The statements in the survey were, the question that got strong in the survey were like this: in a country where I live, I find comfortable speaking in my native language, where 50% of the participants strongly disagreed in it. And another question was, I barely see indigenous students studying their own language in their own educational institutions, where 75 of them strongly agreed. I didn't find any development in the students of Chakma language after pre-preliminary publication by the government, and 90% of them agreed that they did not find any development. A language, I think, includes the application of reading, writing, and speaking. The responses from the survey clearly suggest that if the situation of someone from the indigenous community having the comfort to communicate in their own mother language would have kept the language in practice and would have prevented the language loss, which is happening right now. And seeing that the national curriculum education system of Bangladesh doesn't allow the indigenous people to study in their own language, it somehow pushes the language loss issue even more. Thus, these are some of the pictures that actually scenario like how it would have been if the government had taken more strong initiatives. The participants in the survey agreed that they did not see development in the Chakma language after book publication. The initiative didn't have much development in reviving the language from the language loss. And the participants also agreed that there are rarely any webinars or conferences or awareness sessions held on ethnic languages. So the conclusion to this research is that the takeaway from the findings of the survey, which is unless serious measures are taken, the language will become extinct from language loss. And Sanjay Bromwich, who is the General Secretary of Indigenous Forum, recommended that setting up an Indigenous Language Academy like the Bangla Academy to preserve the language of the Indigenous people. So that's the conclusion.
Thank you, Sashmit, for your presentation.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I had this internet issue. It's really common in the hills.
Well, that happens, no worries. I think, in my opinion at least, and I hope that everyone will agree with me, that still your presentation was informative, interesting, and for me personally very international. So thank you for that. And
thank you.
Yeah. And we invite Dr. Hassan Seljuk from the University of Latvia to open the discussion session.
Yes. Sashmit, first of all, I would like to thank you for this informative, thought-provoking actually presentation. And I quite enjoyed, although at the beginning you had a technical issue, but this happens, and you didn't give up, and you actually presented very well. Actually, I mean, you have used the quantitative method, the survey. This is amazing, and the findings are really clear. The presentation-wise, I think this is a very good research-based presentation. But my opinion is that, do you consider collecting data also qualitatively, like for example from interviews or from people's recounts, like maybe their diaries, they have some kind of written documents, and from there maybe you can obtain more detailed data to validate or to ensure the rigor of the research, the trustworthiness.
I actually plan to do that. Actually, what I had on my plan list was that I become a volunteer for one of the NGOs that directly work, so I can get like more physically. I can get more information from that and collect some data. So that's basically in my list.
And also, for example, I mean, when we talk about the language, of course, for example, it's like I'm thinking of like literature, or for example, folk tales or songs. All these kind of things are, involves or contains language. And do you think that people are also creating in such indigenous language in Bangladesh? Are they still writing poems or writing stories or telling some stories in their languages?
I went through the survey. I went through some surveys on that, and it has shown that since last few decades, it has been decreasing drastically. But they still do. But in the most indigenous people, I believe now live in the towns, but who live in the villages, they do it.
Yes, because these are the things that they can also carry it to the next generation. These things are very important.
These are the roots of the community.
Yeah, exactly. But I think overall, it's very interesting and international, actually research. Yes.
I got recommended by Edwards, so I'll thank him for that.
Yeah, thank you, Dr. Hassan, for your feedback and for your questions. We have one question from Maxim Kutuzov in the chat. Sashmit, what, in your opinion, is the best way for a government to preserve a language of a minority and make sure that they're able to preserve their cultural heritage?
I think it would be like I don't think there is any best way to do that. I think we all should try different ways. The thing is that the government hasn't even tried yet in the initial moment. So I think as the president of Indigenous Adivashi Forum said that it would be really good if they somehow make an academy for the indigenous people. So I think that would be helpful.
Okay, thank you for your answer. Mr. Edgars, you would like to ask something?
First of all, thank you, Sashmit, for participation and as well your presentation. The question is quite simple. Maybe I didn't pay enough attention during your talk, and probably because of internet connection, but the question goes as follows. So how would you assess what are the key players or actors in preserving the minority languages? What are those that are involved? What are those, or who are those that are decision makers, and as well those that probably sometimes aren't listened to? So in other words, what are the key actors or players?
I think the first key actor I can keep is the practice, which is that first of all it's a practice, right? The government actually designed this whole study curriculum in such a way that the indigenous people will get to practice their own language. So that's one thing that I would say is the key factor. And the second factor I can say is the economic value. I mean, for any jobs or professional purposes, you can't. The indigenous languages are quite useless if you talk about any job purposes or in the country. So I think these are the two key factors, and if we develop on them more, I think something will come better in the future.
As we still have time, probably that's the problem of pronunciation. Not factors, but actors or players. Yeah, but still, I'm happy with your answer to the first question. That was the second one. So tell me, who are the key players or key actors in preserving the minority language?
Actors. By key actors, do you mean individuals or organizations?
Well, this is a great start. You can expand. Please elaborate.
I can say language activists are the key actors to this thing, first of all, and cultural dancers or singers, they can be key actors in this thing, which is another thing, because they somehow help preserve the language even if there is not much practice in it. So traditional songs can also be key actors in these things, and these are basically this basically come to my mind in the first few minutes. Right.
Thank you for your answer and contribution.
Thank you, Edgar, for your question, and thank you, Sashmit, for your answer. We have one more question from Raquel. Your findings remind me of the similar struggles of indigenous groups in Brazil, and I'm sure it applies to many countries with minorities and their languages. Thank you for addressing this global issue. I'd love to hear more about your conclusion. Well, it's not really a question, it's a feedback, a very good one. Yeah.
Thanks a lot for the appreciation.
Yeah. Thank you, Sashmit. We still have 1 minute. Maybe anyone would like to address anything shortly. Yes, Flor, please.
Thank you so much, Sushmit. That was very interesting. And one thing that strikes me is why do you think Bangladesh is particularly important as a country in talking about mother tongues? I think we've lost him. Are you still here? Oh, sorry. I'm sorry, Sushmit?
What was the question again?
Okay, my question is, in what way do you think that Bangladesh maybe is representatives in supporting mother tongues, even if they might not?
If you talk about Bangladesh, I think one of the first few things that I'm proud of my country is the 1952 thing, the language movement. I think during that time, the Bangladesh was not that an independent country back then. It was a part of Pakistan, which was another country. So what happened was that the Pakistani people told that their own language, Urdu, would be the official language of the whole country. So the people from Bangladesh, they fought back. So they maybe laid down as many lives as they could. So they could help.
I'm very sorry to interrupt you, but the time is over. Yeah, and we have to go to the next.
I'm sorry. But I can highlight the language movement. So that is
and you're welcome to type your answer in the chat, maybe. That would be awesome.
Thank you so much, Sushmit. I just wanted to highlight the fact that it's thanks to Bangladesh that we have International Mother Tongue Day on the 21st of February. So it's a really relevant topic for you. Yeah, thank you so much.
Yeah. But thank you once again, Sashmit, for your presentation. Thank you for all questions and for your honest answers.